Google's a little slow today. There we go. Finally, we're recording. Okay, so I'm going to leave this screen and I'm going to take the roll. When you hear your name, please respond verbally. Okay, Leanne Adams.
Here.
Ajane Baker.
Here.
Devin Como.
Here.
Jamar Hill. Jamar Hill. Jeremiah Hogan.
Right.
Tashandra Jarrow. Tashandra Jarrow. Devontae Johnson. Let's see if Miss Johnson's having some audio problems. Doesn't appear like she's here. Okay. All right. Brianna Lee. Brianna Lee. Taylor Morris.
Here.
Asia Rachel.
Here.
Julia Tippin. Julia Tippin. Jaden Walsh.
Here.
Darlinda Wright.
Here.
Okay, so I'm going to do one more call to see if anybody has come in the room while I've been on this other page. Jamar Hill. Mr. Hill, are you present? Miss Jarrow, are you present? Let's see, two others. Miss Johnson, are you present?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Is Brianna here? Brianna Lee. Julia Tippin. Well, okay. All right. So I'm going to put up the share screen. And, even though this assignment has already been posted, we need to know a few more things about it as we move forward for future test purposes. So I'm going to put up the share screen and we're going to review some new additions to the Egyptian architecture assignment. If you haven't turned it in, you can go ahead and you can work on it. Okay, so here we go. Egyptian architecture. All right, so there are a few things that I added because they will come up later on in a video that we're going to view that you'll be assigned to view on Friday for class. And you'll have to answer questions from it. So what we have attached to this assignment, we have our PowerPoint pages 45 to 55, which deals with Egyptian architecture, but we also have some additional notes that we need to be aware of. Okay, so we've looked at these images. Okay, so this is the mortuary temple of Queen Hatshepsut. Okay, there's some architectural elements here that need a little bit more examination that we will cover, as well as some of these ancient structures as the Hippostyle Hall. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to minimize that and move to the next. Let me see what's underneath here. Here we go. Okay, so the initial start of Egyptian architecture that archaeologists have traced refer back to the structure called the mastaba. The mastaba was the building blocks of the pyramid, and this was the burial chamber part of the pyramid that the rest of the structure was built on top of. So internally, a mastaba consists of three parts: a burial chamber, a serdab, and a chapel. Okay, so when we look at this image right here, we see the chapel. This would be at the ground level, above the ground level, the chapel. And you also have an offering table and then you have a serdab with a statue. A serdab is like an effigy of the deceased. And then you have this internal shaft that takes you underground to the actual burial chamber, which we'll notice is to the far left. And then you have two artificial walls or blockages put in place to distract any thieves. So the Egyptians were always considering protecting the king even in death. So the mastaba is the actual ground level that the structure was built on. Okay, so when we looked at that image of the Queen Hatshepsut's burial chamber, we saw a series of columns. These columns are called colonnades. These are groupings of columns used to support weight of structures. But if we refer back to the colonnade of Queen Hatshepsut's temple, we see that now the interesting thing about this is that all of these structures were carved from the wall, I mean, from the surface of this mountain. So this part where the ramp starts would be where the mountain was before they cut it away. And all of these exacting geometric columns or colonnades are carved. Okay, so let's go back. All right, so what we have are the three prime types of Egyptian columns. So in the colonnade that we have at the burial site of Queen Hatshepsut, we have fluted columns. All Egyptian columns have three distinct sections. All have a base, all have a shaft, and all have what's referred to as a capital. So in the event of the colonnade that was used with the Valley of Kings, as well as Queen Hatshepsut's temple, those are fluted columns. Now, when we get to the Hypostyle Hall, the Hypostyle, which was the largest religious complex ever made, that too has a base, a shaft, and a capital. But the capital and the shaft, they're all based on the lotus flower. The lotus flower was highly significant in Egyptian mysticism. The lotus flower is a beautiful flower that can grow and prosper in the worst, most inhospitable conditions. So this particular column is based upon that. So when we look at the Hypostyle Hall, this is a model of it. We see that the columns that they used were mostly based on the lotus for the larger parts of the structure. So this little small rectangular, this is about how big you would be in relation to these massive columns. So the open lotus flower supports the weight of the ceiling. And then you also have the lotus bud. So this is the closed lotus flower as a bud, as the capital. And then you have the open lotus flower, as the capital. So the lotus bud, it too has a base, a shaft, and a capital. So, oh, goodness gracious. So when we see these on a test, the test will say, what type of Egyptian column is this? What type of Egyptian column is this? And what type of Egyptian column is this? Disregard this. This is the Persian column. We're only focused on Egyptian columns. Okay, so this is another example of how at the Hypostyle, which is going to be the video that you all are going to watch this week. We're about a week behind. Some of us have started on the African art part, but we have to get through this because it's part of our content. We see we have the lotus bud capitals supporting the lower aspects of the Hypostyle. And then we have the open lotus flower capitals used to support the upper part of the construction. This image is a remaining colonnade using the lotus buds, the lotus bud columns. So they look a little different in actuality than they do in the drawing. but this is how they would be used. And then we have the Valley of the Kings, the entrance to the Valley of the Kings. And this is a colonnade using the fluted column. And so the fluted column, so columns come from Egypt. Although we see columns in Greek and Roman architecture, the columns, we also see it in southern plantation architecture, the usage of columns. Columns denote power. When we see columns arranged in unity and order, it does elicit a sense of power and it's very dynamic. Okay, so when we look at the PowerPoint and we talk about the new kingdom, we have the temple complex for the god Amen-Re. This is one of the major accomplishments of the new kingdom. It's positioned along the Nile River. It uses symbolic architecture and landscape design. And the pylon temple is on a symmetrical axis. So what that means is it's built on a grid, pretty much how you do with structures in modern cities. And it restricted access to the hypostyle hall. So that means everyone who wanted to enter was not allowed. You were only allowed in under a certain set of conditions. Okay, we covered Akhenaten with the video and with a set of questions. Akhenaten was the heretic pharaoh. This was the one that created a system of monotheism during a time where monotheism refers to the worship of one God. He introduced this during a time of polytheism, was the primary culture of dynastic Egypt. Polytheism with the various houses of worship of many different deities. So Akhenaten did away with that and created his own God relationship that only he could control and have access to. All right. And then this was his wife, Nefertiti. We covered that. Now, some interesting facts about Nefertiti. She continued to live after Akhenaten was exiled, and she became the ruler, and she single-handedly had to keep the not the barbarian, but the savage hordes of warriors from Greece that operated under the savage Alexander the Great. I refer to him as a savage because Alexander the Great was a functional illiterate, and he was into warfare and killing. And so she basically had to involve herself with him to keep the empire going and not be overrun by the Hyksos, which were his red-bearded soldiers. Okay, so in the New Kingdom, we had a brief period of monotheism and political change. And after Akhenaten was exiled, his wife became the queen, became the influential leader or the queen. And this particular sculpture is from Amarna, which was the kingdom that Akhenaten built. And it showed a rejection of artistic tradition, and it valued ideal beauty over true likeness, and it had inlaid eyes. So now this image is controversial, and in the past, I've shown a video to students where you have archaeologists refuting the authenticity of this image. Many archaeologists say that the facial features of Nefertiti do not match the facial features of the Egyptian people at that time. And many would say that this is an Edwardian type of face, which is European. So, and the fact that this was made with plaster and inlaid eyes versus being carved from one solid piece of stone, which was the standard at that time, has led some archaeologists to believe that this is a fraud, that this is an image made in modern times to inject Europeans into the history of ancient Egypt. Okay, so we'll look at that video. It's a short video, but it's interesting. It was actually an interview with an art counterfeiter who said this is definitely a fraud. And this is like something that he would have come up with. Okay, so we have the inner coffin of Tutankhamun, the son of Akhenaten, who was killed in his teenage years. Okay, all right. So when we get to the questions, if you turn this in, you probably were missing a lot of answers because I didn't have this information uploaded. So feel free to send me an email if you turned it in and you would like to resubmit it, because I'll have to clear out the grade. So with this, we have what are mastabas? We have the answer right here in our notes. A stacked mastabas create a step pyramid. I need to interject the step pyramid image and define a column. Okay, we have our columns and we have the various types of columns. Basically, a column is a support structure made from 3 sections, which is the base, the shaft, and the capital. Okay, the next question, describe the sections of the lotus bud column. So if we had to describe the sections, we have the base and the shaft, but these are based on the opening of the lotus flower. So this is the opened flower. Describe sections of the lotus bud column. This represents the unripened flower that is still developing. Okay, define a colonnade. So the colonnade is a group of fluted columns that are used to support the opening of a structure. And what does the Queen's pose suggest in slide 44? Let's go to slide 44. Okay, so this is slide 44 from the Old Kingdom. Her posture, let me see. Yeah, her posture represents support of her husband. And you notice they both stepped forward with the left foot. Has anybody ever been in a marching band? Any of you ever been in a marching band? Or any of you ever been in the military where you had to do marching drills or drill team? You'll notice that you start off with your left foot. That is based on ancient Egypt. Everyone, all the sculptures and statuary from ancient Egypt that show rulers making a step forward, they're always step forward with their left foot. Okay, so let me go on. Right, so the Queen's pose indicates marriage, the way that she's holding onto her king. And these are considered typical Egyptian poses. These are the ideal proportions of a godlike king. So let's take a look at that, because if we look at the ideal proportions in the Western sense, everybody has to have huge muscles and a fully defined abdominal core with veins everywhere. Very different from how the Egyptians looked at things. Okay, so the home of the king's Ka, the Ka represents the soul. So the temple is the home for the king's Ka. All right. Okay, so that is, yes, any questions? Asia, you have a question?
No, I don't. I just you had said something about people that have been in the military. I was going to say that I have.
About what? I'm sorry.
People that were in the military, RTC and stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you do any marching or drilling?
Yeah, I did.
You always started with that left foot, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So isn't that amazing? That's an ancient tradition. Now, another thing I want you all to look at. Okay, let's take a look at Akhenaten's headdress, right? The headdress represents lower Egypt. Now, if you take a look at the drum major of a marching band, the drum major tends to have this conical dome structure as a headdress, and they also have the insignia of their university, you know, at the temporal region. So there's a lot of connection to modern day hierarchy and what was considered hierarchy in the past. So I went to Southern University, and the drum major was actually considered to be more valuable than the quarterback of the football team in terms of how they were treated on the campus. The drum major would do something acrobatic stuff and some rhythmic, soulful moves that would control the whole band, that would impact the whole crowd. So it really was the supreme position. And this guy also, or woman, also had a scepter. The scepter was always kept in the left hand as well. So they had the scepter, they had the Egyptian headdress, and they start stepping with their left foot. So we're definitely using a lot of ancient Egyptian hierarchical or assortments of placement of things in our current contemporary society. So it's pretty interesting when you look at how some things are timeless. So you know, the marching and the geometric movements. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next part of Egypt. And then, yeah, so we did the, let me see, we did the dynastic period. We already did that. Okay. And that was due back in September. So, actually, we're gonna go a little deeper into the architecture. Okay, all right. So let me refer back to the PowerPoint. All right, so we have the hippopotamus hunt. All right, we have our new kingdom. Okay, so this is a very important piece of art. Okay, so when we meet on Wednesday, there is a 20-minute video we're going to look at that takes us into the Temple of Ramses at Abu Simbel, and the video is based on that one day of the year where the rays of sun go all the way to the back of this structure. It's very dark in there most of the year, and there's only one day out of the entire year where you see the dark, where the back room is illuminated. And there's hundreds and hundreds of people that come here for this annual ritual. And these structures are colossal. So I don't know if you can see, there's a human figure way down here, a contemporary human figure. So all of this stuff is massive. Like the entrance is like 30 feet by 25 feet, if not 40 feet. And all the structures are colossal. And if you look, this was carved completely out of the wall of a mountain and bore out. And the interesting thing about a lot of these structures is archaeologists have a tendency to look and search for mounds of debris. Just, you know, where would they have put all of this mountain material? Because this is like hundreds of tons of mountain material that would have had to have been subtracted, and there's no evidence of it. So it's very, very mysterious in terms of how these structures were made. Okay, and this is the Temple of Amun-Re. This is one of the major accomplishments of the New Kingdom. The Temple of Amun-Re was a temple complex designed to show veneration to the god Amun-Re. And this is in Karnak. So this space here, Karnak. So you have the religious centers of Egyptian life were Karnak and Luxor. So they had these massive spaces that people would gather in to do rituals and worship various gods. So part of this was picked up by the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. because the cathedrals are designed to dwarf the individual. So a lot of the medieval Catholic cathedrals were based on this principle of dwarfing the individual to be in awe of the God being worshipped. Okay, so when we meet on Wednesday, we're going to look at the video about the King Ramses Temple Complex. Let me see, where are you at? Here we go. Yeah, King Ramses Temple Complex at Abu Simbel, and we will observe the ritual of the sunlight. And there will be a series of questions from that, which will be a homework assignment. And on Friday, you're going to be on your own to watch the video on the Nok people's ceramic sculpture. And there will be some questions for an assignment based on that. So are there any questions today, folks? Did everybody take your, everyone should have taken a midterm exam. There was a little bit of confusion. Some people asked me, how can it be due if I have 24 hours to do it? Which is a good question, but we're working with computers and Canvas. If I don't give it a due date, I can't give it a, an end date. So I gave it a 24 hours to do it. So did anybody have any problems uploading and accessing that test?
No.
Wonderful, wonderful. So listen, if there are no questions, that's going to conclude today's lecture. I will post this within the next 24 hours. My lecture from my earlier class, I recorded, and Google Meet has still, normally they send me my recorded videos within 10 minutes, but they still haven't sent it. Okay, looks like Mr. Hill just joined. Wow, right as we end. So Jamar, you're going to have to refer to the video that's going to be posted in course resources, so we don't have to repeat the lecture. But I will mark you as present. So I'm going to take my presentation.
I was already in here. I had to answer the phone call from my mom. That's why.
Oh, okay, you're already here? All right, well, I'll mark you present for this class. So if there are no questions, folks, you all enjoy the rest of your day. This is a wonderful day to be out on the oaks enjoying the sun. So try to get some sun in for the rest of the week. And with that, I bid you all adieu. See you on Wednesday.
Have a nice day.
Take care. Stop recording.